Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you coming back. I wanted to do a little update video. In the previous video, I had said that we planned on going Saturday to the track, which we did. And well, I'll just start into everything now. So I bought the cheapest action camera that you can buy on Amazon. And I thought it was working fine. I put it in a camera for each run, and all I did was get the audio. Never got any video. All I had was one still shot, and it stayed there and played the audio. So there was no video footage, which I thought I was getting every single time. I should have checked it, but I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do anything different because I didn't have a way to like mount my cell phone or the big camera or nothing like that. So that's unfortunate. I do have two clips from a friend that was in the stands, so I can put them in there. They're from way down, towards the finish line, so they're not the greatest, but they're better than nothing, I guess. So how'd it go? So if you're paying attention to the previous videos, I got it together. I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday, maybe Friday. No, it wouldn't be Friday. It was like Wednesday or Thursday. Got it together, got it running, got it started up. Did the startup video earlier in the week, and did a base, make it idle, make the AFR safe at idle tune, and got that to where it would idle pretty good. And then I took it down the road about a 5 mile round trip, cleaning up a tune as much as I could. Where I live, there's not a lot of back country roads that I can open this thing up and get data logs to adjust the higher KPA, the higher boost cells in my map. But I was able to adjust the lower stuff and the cruising stuff to get it, decent. Like I said, 5 mile round trip. I come back and notice there's little oil spots going out the driveway. And I was getting a little bit of smoke on my drive from under the hood. I don't have a hood on it right now because I'm still waiting, for them to make it. I noticed a little smoke. Kept an eye on my oil pressure and all that shit, and it was fine the whole time. So, anyways, I get back and I get to looking, and there's pretty good underneath of the car is pretty good covered in oil. So I do a little further investigating, and it's on the driver's side of the block, kind of farther back. I'm trying to think what's on that side. Well, come to find out, I had set the dipstick tube to the side so that I could paint it. Well, I forgot it. So I drove the car that 5 mile round trip without a dipstick tube. So every time I went around a corner or the oil sloshed around, it would come out of that dipstick tube hole in the block and get oil everywhere. So luckily, there still had plenty of oil in it when I got back. I figured it out. Painted and installed the dipstick tube, cleaned it all up, and it's been leak free ever since. So that was the night before. That was on Friday. And like I said, I got the driving, cruising area decent, not even perfect, but okay on the tune. And that was all we had time for. So we loaded it up Saturday morning. Got everything loaded in there, threw in some tools just in case. Took the generator and the big fan because it was mid-90s on Saturday here in Michigan. And we headed to Milan. Milan Dragway, if you're not familiar, it's an NHRA track, but it's not like it's not an outlaw track where you can run anything no matter how safe or unsafe it is. It's but they're not sticklers for the rules, I guess is the best way to put it. You can bring stuff there that maybe is going too fast for not having a cage or not having a parachute or the right safety equipment, and they'll let you run, at least on a tested tune. At an actual race, it's different, but on a tested tune night, they pretty much anything goes. Especially this year, they want your money because, with the stuff that happened this year, they've lost quite a bit of money. So anyways, we get to Milan. I unload it, take it into tech. They didn't even really look at it. They just, here's your number. What kind of treat do you want? A 400 Pro tree, okay. These are the lanes you want to stage in. So, all right. So I go back, go up for the first run, and I go to the line, put it on the trans brake, and I'm only getting like 3,600 RPM. Now remember back, this converter was supposed to be set up for about 4,500 RPM to stall to on the trans brake. I was only getting like 36, maybe 3,700 RPM, and at that RPM, this little motor is only going to make about, you might make 4. I was making, I think, 4.4 pounds on the trans brake during the first runs there. And it would leave, it's got 327 gears. It doesn't make a bunch of torque. It's, even on 4 pounds, it's not going to come out of the hole like an animal. So, and this was on wastegate. I had no CO2 turned on. It was just strictly on a wastegate, and it's got like a 5-pound spring in it. It might be 4-pound. 4 or 5 pound spring in it. So I didn't think a whole lot about it. I figured, it's low boost, whatever. And it ran, that first pass, it ran an 11.9, I think it was. Yeah, 11.9 at 127 or some shit. Mid to upper 120s. So I get it back and I make some adjustments on the tune via the data log. Now remember, this is still low boost. Only 4.4 pounds is what it made the entire way down the track, which is wastegate. And I was happy with that. Our best last year was an 11.7 at 131. So we were close. And that was on, the 11.7 at 131 last year was on, 15 pounds of boost, and it would spike after a shift. It would spike up to 19 for, a quarter of a second, and then come back down to 15 and just hover around there. So, we're going from 4.5 pounds to 15 pounds, and we're running damn near the same speed, or excuse me, the same time, almost the same speed. Obviously I was still down a few mile an hour from last year, but so no big, So like I said, I made an adjustment on the fuel trims. During them runs when I was in boost, the AFR gauge was pegged rich, so it was just drowning on fuel. So I made small adjustments. I didn't want to make a huge adjustment because I don't know this map. It's got new injectors, so I don't want to take a whole bunch of fuel out and have it end up leaning itself out. So I want to work my way up to it. So I pulled out a fair amount of fuel, but not a bunch. I didn't want to make a drastic change. Load that tune in there, cool the car off, because like I said, it's 95 degrees, so I gotta run the generator and run the fan on it to cool down the transmission and cool the coolant temps down. I would like to get them down to like around 140 on the coolant, and the transmission, under 100 before I go back up there in the staging lanes. So I did that, went up there for the second and third runs are basically the same. Went up there, same thing on the trans brake, 36, 3,700, 4.5 pounds. And same deal. I'd get up 4 or 5 pounds down track, and it was just pig rich, and couldn't really do anything, So after them runs, and then were pretty slow runs, I did a bunch of 11.7s to 12.0s, at 100, 120-ish mile an hour. After them, I was able to make some more adjustments on my fuel map. And I also remember my timing map is super conservative right now until I get the tune squared away. So it's really light on timing. It's slobbering on fuel because it's so rich. And so I made adjustments, took out some more fuel in the boost map, and took it out for the fourth run. Made the fourth run. It was the same deal on the line, but in the boost, the 4.5, 5 pound boost KPA area, it cleaned up the fuel quite a bit, and it was responsive. You could tell it kept pulling. Before it would kind of fall on its face a little bit and the upper RPMs because of all the fuel that it was choking on. So it made a decent clean pass, and that was an 11.6 at 129-ish, something like that. Which I also forgot, on all these runs, I'm still getting used to the B&M shifter. And the problem I was running into was I'd pull it into first, go up to the line, get on the trans brake, release it, and then, which part of it is the adjustment. I need to adjust the cable better, basically. It's out of adjustment a little bit. So I would leave the line, pull it back to what I thought was second, but it was actually in between first and second. So it'd be basically a neutral. And I'd have to pull it back more, and it would go into second. And then two of the times I forgot I have to pull the trigger to go into third. So I'd try to pull it back into third. And obviously there's a lockout between second and third. You have to pull the trigger to go into third, and it wouldn't go. So then I'd let off the throttle, try to figure out what I was doing. Okay, oops, I missed. I got to pull the throttle or pull the shifter lever and then pull it into third and whatever. So that was hurting my times, but I was getting okay data for making adjustments on the fuel table. At this point, I was getting a little discouraged. So, okay, the fuel tables are okay now, so I can turn down the CO2, give it a little more boost, and just start cleaning up more of the map on the higher KPA cells. So I turned the CO2 on. I think I gave it, I want to say 10 or 12 PSI dome pressure, which that ended up, I want to say it was 12 pounds of dome pressure, gave me about 9 pounds of boost. So on the next run, I did that, gave it 9 pounds, and I was still only making, getting about 3,700 RPM on the trans brake and 4.5 pounds. I was able to peak up to about 8.5 pounds down track, but the same bullshit on the line. And with the more boost, I was going higher in the cells on the fuel map, and it was still way pig rich up there. It went back down to the 10 O's, fully pegged the gauge rich. And with the more boost, it was starting to miss really bad up top. Nice and clean. I'd get up to about 5,500 in the 8 or 9 pounds, and then it was bucking, and it was hating life because there was just too much fuel. It was just way too much. So I came back, made adjustments. I know it sounds like a broken story. We actually got in quite a few runs, so it was good. They weren't super busy, so that's good. I think I made a total of, I got the hiccups, guys. I made a total of 6 runs in a about 5-hour period, so that's good. Usually I'm lucky to make 3. So anyways, at this point I was getting discouraged. I'm like, what? What is going on? It's not running the speed that it ran even last year. It's about running the same about ET, but the mile an hour is down about 10 mile an hour. What the hell is going on? So I sat down, while I was cooling the car down, and I was looking at my tune, and I noticed on my 2-step, for one, on my high side RPM limit, the maximum that the computer will allow the engine RPM wise, I had that set still at last year's RPM, which was 6,500, and I have a 300 RPM Hysterius. So once it gets to 6,200, it's going to start pulling timing. Then once it gets up to 65, it's going to bang it down until it hits 300, basically 6,200 RPM. It has to drop 300 RPM, and then it will give it more fuel and time and spark again. So coming to find out, I was hitting basically the limiter the whole time. Because I was, I got new springs and all that shit, so I can run a new cam, so I can run this thing up quite a ways higher, and I was trying to, but I was hitting the limiter, and so I'm like, ding ding, the light went off. So I raised that up to 7,800, which I'm going to be shifting about 7,500 right now. So great, I thought. So then I was like, well, I wonder if my 2-step settings are still from last year, because I thought I had changed all this stuff, but obviously I didn't. Or I didn't save it, one of the two. So I went into my 2-step settings, the trans brake settings, and same shit. I had the 2-step was set to, what the hell was it? $4,000, and it had a 500 RPM drop basically. So it would let it get to about 3,600 RPM, and that would be it. 4.4 pounds or whatever it could make at that low of an RPM. So I'm like, damn, no wonder, man. So I jacked that up to, I figured if it's going to drop 500, I'll set it to like 53-ish hundred, and that would allow me to get between 45 and 4,700 on the trans brake. So at this point, the track was closing. I had one more run, that I could make before they closed. And so I went up there, threw it on the trans brake, and that bitch went up to 45, 4,600, right up to 10 pounds of boost, which is what I got my launch boost sat at, 170 kPa, or about 10 pounds of boost. I mean, it shot up, boom, right there, and it was just sitting on the trans brake, just, like they do on the two-step. And I'm like, man, I just had a shit-eating grin. I'm like, finally, it's acting like it's supposed to, and that was so encouraging. So I released the trans brake on that one, and boom, tires broke loose. I mean, that was the first time all through last year and up to this run this year. It's this first time that we've gone, 5 runs previous today, of that day at least. It never broke traction. It was a dog out of the hole. And, and I was discouraged with it. But man, on that 10 pounds, I even had the tires aired down and everything, man. And I did a good burn out to clean the tires up, and it just, man, it snapped me back into seat. I mean, it was a completely different animal. And, man, I was just smiling from ear to ear. I had to pedal it twice. It broke as soon as I released the trans brake. It broke traction. I pedaled it once. I got back in it. Broke traction again. Pedaled it again, and then I was able to kind of you do a half or quarter run in there. Ended up running the best time of the night was that 6th run where I had to pedal it twice off the starting line. And it ran at 11.4 at 134, 35 mile an hour. And this is only on 10 pounds of boost, which is very promising. Like I said, that's faster than we ran last year on quite a bit less boost, a hell of a lot less timing. And so that pass changed the whole night for me, because like I said, previous up to that, man, I just couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, why it was being lazy. I knew I had the timing pulled back quite a bit just to be safe until I got the tune worked out fuel wise. But man, it still should be this, it should be able to rev up to the stall speed of the converter, which is supposed to be about 4,500. And and that last one, man, it was perfect, and was super happy with that. So we were able to load it up after that, and it was still slobbering on fuel, because that was a new part of the map that I hadn't really been up to yet. A little bit on the previous run, but not quite. I was 8.5, 9 pounds, and I went up to 10.2 on that last run. So it was still 10.0s, but I got quite a bit of data, so I can go in there and pull out a bunch of fuel up top, and hopefully the first run, the next time that we go, we'll be able to get it into the 11s, AFR wise, so that it ain't missing up top, choking on the fuel. So yeah, that was what happened. I had the camera, the GoPro, the Chinese copy of it, or whatever you want to call it, in the car each time, and it just all it ever had, if it even recorded at all it recorded was audio. So there's nothing there, all junk footage. So like I said, I got two runs that I'll throw in throughout the day. I can't remember. The one was the first or second run on wastegate, 4.5 pounds, and then the last clip was the actual last run. And like I said, I spun twice right out of the hole, and I short shifted in a second, and just went on my merry way on a little half run. But guys, so and the CO2 dome control, man, that shit works so good. I'm glad I made the change, because it is so just simple and accurate. It's just, if I know on my car with my wastegates and my setup that, it's at least up to a certain point that I've run so far, if I want 15 pounds of boost, I need 18 pounds of CO2 pressure on top of the dome. So it's simple. I type in 18 PSI, save it, and it puts 18 PSI on there, and it gives me 15 pounds of boost, Super simple. I don't really have to unless I go into closed loop setup. Right now I'm running just a simple open loop strategy for the dome control. I don't have to worry about solenoid, duty cycles or any of that stuff right now. I just tell it, I got a dome pressure sensor. I want 18 psi in that chamber on top of the dome, and I know that that'll give me 15 or whatever. So, hopefully Wednesday they're having another test and tune. I'll be able to go, and I ordered a GoPro just to get rid of the cheap shit and just have something that hopefully is going to work without issue. I know some people have issues with the legit GoPros. Hopefully I won't, but I got that coming. That's supposed to be here Tuesday, so it should be here in time for the Wednesday track outing, and I will have in-car video and actually decent footage to show you guys. But yeah, I appreciate you guys listening to me mumble jumble. Sorry I didn't get any in-car footage, or really any good footage at all. A couple small short clips from outside the car from a buddy, but hopefully this coming Wednesday we'll have some decent footage for you guys, and we'll get this car down. Like I said, I'm still going to be slowly working up on it, guys. I'm not going to be cranking her up to 25 or 30 pounds until I got the map perfect. I want to make sure it's perfect, and then I'll throw the timing back in it, and then it'll be rocking and rolling. But if I can get her down, into the 10s next week or on Wednesday, as long as the tune is shaping up good, we'll try to shoot for the 10s, and then once everything's squared away, man, we'll be shooting for the 9s. So, but yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, and stay tuned, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. If you guys like the mod motor content, and we'll see you guys on the next one. See ya.